What random fact could save your life one day? If a tornado looks like it's not moving, it's moving towards you. Edit. Thank you kind strangers for the silver and gold medals smiley face. Tip. Pick a fence post, light pole, windmill, road sign, any good upright thing, and take just a moment to see if the tornado is moving to the right or left of it. If neither, it could be very slow or even near stationary, but don't count on it. It's probably moving toward or away from you, and you're best off playing it safe by leaving rather than staying longer to see if it gets bigger or smaller. Try to move away from it at right angles. Remember that tornadoes can shift track. They most commonly move northeast, but not always. Tornadoes can move slowly or rapidly, even at speeds of about 50 miles per hour or a bit more, so you want to take action quickly. Have a good plan in mind beforehand. That's the best tip for pretty much any disaster. Also, do not hide under an overpass. It's like a wind tunnel at that point. Checking a text message while driving is a 4.5-second distraction on average. Increases the risk of crashing 23-fold. Need to break a car window? Aim for the edges, corners, not the center where the glass is strongest. Was taught this by a friend who is a fireman. Was taught by a stereo salesman. A used stereo salesman. Very legal. Very cool. I can confirm this. I'm a firefighter, and during a training I took a swing at a car sunroof with the spike end of a Halligan. I hit it hard right in the center and it stayed intact. After hitting it in a corner per my captain's advice, it broke right away. If you dial 911 abroad, it will redirect you to the local emergency services. Did this in Russia recently, and it even had an English speaker at the other end. If you get lost and have a cell phone but it says you have no signal, try dialing 911 anyway. Thanks to the FCC, emergency calls will go through any possible connection. This includes all networks, not just your carrier, emergency service channels, and even any available private networks, forestry, mining, military, ranching, etc. Edit. User added that this also works with any country in the EU using 112. 911. This is 911, what's your emergency? Me, lost in the wilderness. Tell my mom I'm not gonna be home on time for dinner. When I got lost in the rainforest, I called my friend back home while he was at work and asked him to call the United States Embassy to tell them to send help. His reaction was priceless. Bruh, you can't just leave us hanging. What happened? He was never found and died. RIP. Also, if you're in a country where you don't know the emergency number, try 911, or 999 or 112 or whatever your country's emergency number is. Common emergency numbers will usually still connect to emergency services in other countries with other numbers. Ideally learn the number where you are, but if you haven't and need emergency services, just dial what you know. Yup. An astronaut accidentally dialed 911 from the space station. As soon as the operator picked up, he realized his mistake and hung up. Don't they usually send someone to go check? Yeah, they picked him up for making a phony 911 call. ISS crew was really upset. When attacked by clowns, go for the jugular. For hypothermia, shaking equals sucks but we'll be okay. Keep warm. Silent and falling asleep equals bad. The body is giving up. And if they're taking their clothes off equals really bad. People in the final stages of hypothermia engage in paradoxical undressing because, as they lose rationality and their nerves are damaged, they feel incredibly, irrationally hot. They strip off their clothes to cool themselves down as they're freezing to death. I saw this in real life once. Guy was standing there with all his gear on, probably like 3 or 4 layers of clothes all together. I looked down to check my ski and look back up and he's in his boxers in the middle of a blizzard. Could believe how fast he undressed. I've never seen anything like it. So, as great as it is to know I'm dying because of hypothermia, is there anything you can do to stop it at this point? Assuming that if you've passed the shaking phase, you probably haven't been able to get warm. Not being pedantic, would genuinely rather not die of hypothermia. Edit. Okay, I spelt the first hypothermia wrong. Still a word though, TIL. You? No, if you're at that point and you're the one responsible for keeping yourself alive, you're almost certainly dead. There's a tiny chance you might be able to stumble into a hot spring if you happen to be freezing to death right by one for some reason. The value of this tip is when you're with friends and you're all cold and you realize your buddy is starting to nod off or say he's warm. Then you know getting him warm is life or death, so you can take appropriate action. Someone else having this knowledge saved my life one time. I was on the water during a snowstorm and ended up getting wet and separated from my group. By the time I got to the beach I was so cold I tried to just lay down for a quick nap. A lady dragged me into the back of her SUV, complete stranger, and got the heat blasting and got me dry because she recognized I could not be allowed to lay down on the beach or wait for my friends when I was clearly hypothermic. Wow, kudos to that lady for saving your life. For real, complete stranger too. She was just there to watch her husband test out a jet ski they wanted to buy or something. Late December, I guess they were getting a great price, and she saw me stumble up on the beach and didn't hesitate at all to help a soaking wet stranger. I was in rough shape even after I got warm and my friends found me. I don't remember her name or anything. Great lady. Having suicidal thoughts is a life-threatening condition, but it is treatable. No matter how much the internet jokes about everyone wanting to die all the time, you should take thoughts of self-harm as seriously as, for example, a severe allergic reaction, and get help right away. If someone confesses to you that they feel suicidal sometimes, treat it as seriously as if they said that someone in their house was trying to kill them. It is not normal, it is not benign, you don't have to just suffer through it and hope it goes away again. It is a treatable symptom of disease. Seeking professional help is the right thing to do. It's not an inconvenience to others, it's not whining, it's not giving up on something you should be able to tough out on your own. It is the correct, responsible, appropriate, and morally good thing to do if you notice those symptoms in yourself or others. I didn't tell anyone about my suicidal thoughts for a long time, until I listened to a psychology lecture about how difficult, but life-savingly critical, it is to get suicidal people to reach out for help for the first time, and to make sure that the person they first reach out to actually does something about it. The first person I ever told did nothing to help me, and I suffered way longer than I needed to because I thought she was right. Once I put two and two together and realized that was just one of the many bad things she did to me in that friendship, I went to the counselor right away out of spite. How dare that Tiffany know my life was in immediate danger and just make me feel worse about it, like it was my fault for freaking up. Don't be like Tiffany. If you know about suicidal feelings, actually freaking do something to try to save the person's life and help treat their suffering. Even if that person is you. Edit. Thank you for the silver, gold and platinum. I want to be good and respond to each person who has reached out for help, but I am working late tonight and it may take me a few days to get to everyone. Another part of this is that suicidal thoughts aren't just, I want to kill myself, but mom will be sad, like the memes imply. Desires to simply stop existing, being forgotten, or getting into a lethal accident are also important to recognize as being suicidal idealizations. Source: my therapist and me. You need to chew an aspirin if you take one thinking you are having a heart attack. Does aspirin help during a heart attack? Never heard of it, so it is good to know. It works by reducing platelets' clotting ability. It generally won't get rid of the clot that's formed in your heart but should reduce further clotting. The old standard was 4 by 81 mg aspirin. Now it's 2 by 81 mg, 2 small blue ones. Edit, at least the standard in SAS Canada. We still use 4 by 81 mg as standard. I haven't heard of using 2 only. Source: current EMT who also works in a major metropolitan emergency department. Can confirm, had a heart attack 5 years ago, and they gave 2 more after the 2 I took on my own. Then they gave me a nitroglycerin pill. They said that me taking the 2 aspirin so quickly after the pain started helped to save my life. Yes, but it has to be aspirin, meaning not acetaminophen or ibuprofen. Aspirin contains acetylsalicylic acid, which is what you're looking for. Dumb question, do they have to be chewable aspirin by design? Or can you just chew regular aspirin? Just regular aspirin. It's disgusting, but it's marginally better than the alternative. I'd rather die than to chew on one. Thanks anyways. You can actually find flavored aspirin sometimes. I keep a bottle in my car first aid kit. If one tourniquet isn't enough, add another. Never remove bandages on a patient if they bleed through, just continue to add more on top until you can get them to the hospital or doctor. Brown coconuts contain oils that cause dehydration, so drink the milk of the green coconuts. However, you can burn the husks of the brown coconuts to repel mosquitoes. I just started replaying the first Kingdom Hearts game. There's a part in the beginning where you have to collect coconuts for a trip. I wondered why it would only let me collect the green coconuts but not the brown ones. I thought it was just a weird video game technicality. And that was the last time Kingdom Hearts made sense. If you have an acute injury, don't see a chiropractor, especially without getting images. My ex was paralyzed from just below the chest down by one, and I know a girl who bled to death after a neck adjustment ripped her carotid artery. Knowing these people saved my life when I developed the same neck issue as the girl and saw a neurosurgeon instead of a chiropractor. Edit. Thank you for my first gold. I hope this advice helps someone. Sounds like it already may have. I am a vascular surgeon. This post is the truth. If things not making any sense, test your carbon monoxide detector. Professor, yes? Can you test your carbon monoxide detector because this not making any sense? Funnily enough, we just had a huge carbon monoxide leak at an elementary school here in Montreal. Nobody died, but kids were throwing up and dozens were hospitalized. Schools here don't have carbon monoxide detectors. You have a strange sense of humor. Also, carbon monoxide detectors are only good for a certain time. If you've had one for more than 5 to 7 years, it's time to replace it. Also, if your carbon monoxide detector is beeping, don't expect it to be just the battery dying, mom. If you're drunk or have a drunk friend, make them sleep on their side, never on their back. After particularly social nights in college, if one of us were puking and not doing great, my roommate and I would put a book bag on the inebriated one to ensure he didn't roll over on his back to prevent vomit aspiration. We do this too. We call it backpacking someone. A pastor from my church growing up was in Africa wading across a river when a crocodile clamped onto his leg. The crocodile pulled him under the water, and he probably would have drowned except he watched The Crocodile Hunter all the time. He remembered the episode where Steve Irwin showed that there was a valve in a crocodile's mouth that was really sensitive, and if you pulled on it, the crocodile would open his mouth and release whatever he was clamped onto. So my pastor reached into the crocodile mouth, found the valve, and pulled onto it. He's alive because of Steve Irwin. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect such a large response. I am literally brand new to Reddit, so I don't know if there's a way for me to attach a picture to this thread. If someone tells me how, I'll add the picture of his leg after the accident. He was a missionary in Africa for about 6 years in the early 2000s and was traveling between 2 extremely poor villages, and the only way was the river and no one owned a boat. One of the most badass men I know. The level of calm needed to hunt for a weird flap in the mouth of the river dinosaur trying to eat you is astounding. My man Steve may be dead, but he's still saving lives. Bless up. Steve be with you. If you think your house or apartment is haunted and have been seeing, hearing, or feeling a presence, get a carbon monoxide detector. You may be hallucinating and this is potentially lethal. Funny but real. The International Morse Code SOS is --. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. If all you can do is tapping, then you have to add longer pauses between your long taps to distinguish them from short taps. Edit. My grandpa taught this to me when I was 6, it always stuck with me. If you have a firearm in the wild, 3 shots spaced 5 seconds apart will signal distress. If you have a whistle in the wild, some packs build them into the chest strap, blow it 6 times over a minute, then wait 1 minute for reply and repeat until found. Replies should be 3 whistles a minute. Edit. So I maybe sort of definitely got my information from a German company. It looks like this is what you do in the Alps, but in the US you can just do 3 whistles. Should still be effective either way. For all of you that are saying, what if I do it differently for no reason? Well, you are going to die in the wilderness, I'm sorry, but there's nothing anyone can do. May God have mercy on your soul. Rule of 3 strikes again. Not my own life, but someone else's. A person drowning doesn't look like the screaming, shouting, arm flailing we see in TV and the movies. It's subtle, quiet, and deadly, and once you know the signs, and see them, you don't have much time to save someone's life. Sue, what are the signs? I was a lifeguard. If I remember correctly, the person will be vertical in the water, they will most likely have their face up, they will be trying to struggle but they won't be making much noise. We always assumed that the lifeguard has a tube, so I can't comment on what to do if you see somebody in trouble in the water and don't have a flotation device. Struggling is the main sign and it's almost always quiet due to the victim being zapped on energy. Source: Lifeguard, water safety instructor. Let's say that an overhead power transmission line fell down near you and the ground is live with several thousand to a few 100,000 volts. And somehow you're still standing. In order to get away, don't walk or run. Bunny hop or slowly shuffle, keeping your feet touching. Electricity flows based on difference of potential. If you walk, then the distance from the source of the electricity between your 2 feet will be enough difference of potential to shock you. But if you bunny hop away, or shuffle with your 2 feet staying in contact with each other, then you might just get away unscathed. When I was in elementary school, we had a presentation on what to do if a power line was live and it hit your car, was near you, etc. It scared the living daylight out of me because I was afraid this was something I'd encounter all the time. Lol. Yep, it's called step potential. Consider the ground has a voltage of 33,000 volts at the point where the cable touches the ground. The voltage drops by half every 2.5 to 3 feet from the point where it is grounded. Let's say you are standing next to a line that hits the ground. You are 6 feet away. At 3 feet from the cable, the voltage of the ground is about 16,500 volts. Where you're standing with your feet together, the ground is at 8,250 volts. You're a bird on a wire at this point. You panic and take one big step to GTFO. Your right leg is now 3 feet away from your left. Your right leg is still at 8,250 volts, but your left is at 4,125 volts. It's all about the difference in voltage. It doesn't matter where the zero is. In this scenario, it's the same as standing on nice safe solid not going to fry you ground and stepping onto a 4,125 volt live conductor. Insta kill. If you ever almost drown to the point of throwing up water or passing out, even if you feel 100% fine, get to a hospital. Your lungs can unwittingly self-fill up with fluid over the next few hours. You will drown on dry land when you lay down. This is important for parents to know too. It can happen to infants if they accidentally inhale water during a bath, so it's important to monitor them afterward. Swimming is not without some risk, said Paul Cavella, MD, MBA, FACEP, president of the American College of Emergency Physicians. You could develop pneumonia or other infections from inhaling water, for example. But there are no cases of completely normal healthy children who suddenly die because they went swimming days earlier. If water gets in your airway or lungs, symptoms show very quickly. They do not emerge out of the blue days later. The concept of dry drowning is a misnomer and a myth. Let's stop using the term and avoid causing undue alarm. American College of Emergency Physicians News, release April 25, 18. Because everyone keeps bringing up dry drowning. In a crisis situation, the first thing you should do is remind yourself to pay attention to what's going on around you. This will stop you from panicking, allow you to recognize potential solutions, and help you respond rather than freeze. The Army veteran who told me this said, "Just tell yourself to get your head out of your ass." This goes for almost any stressful situation. Keep yourself focused on what's at hand, keep the people around you focused on what's at hand, and you're far more likely to be helpful in whatever situation you're in. Drowning comes to mind where this is particularly applicable. My mother nearly drowned as a child. She said there came a point where she just didn't care anymore. It was only when she remembered that her little brother was also in the water that she was able to refocus on finding the surface. If you tell Siri 112, it will automatically call 911. Could be useful in a kidnap situation or something like that where you need to be discreet. Edit. This got more attention than I thought. Yes, I spelled it wrong, discreet. You definitely may be better off just calling 911. I don't know, this is just kinda a cool trick. Also, I say it like 112 and it works. Haven't tried other variations. Thanks all. Thanks for using the secret 911 emergency command, Kevin. Police are on the way, Siri at max volume. Edit. Thanks for taking my gold virginity. And remember, your mom told you to poop. Man, I hate it when these questions come up. I always feel obliged to read every single one of the answers just in case it's gonna happen to me. Been here a good 45 minutes. If you ever end up driving your car off the road and into a body of water, don't panic when you are unable to open your door against the pressure of the water. Just hold your breath and wait. Once the vehicle is completely submerged and filled with water, the pressure will be balanced and you'll be able to open the car door easy peasy. Thanks, Mythbusters. P.S. No, but seriously, just get one of those 2-in-1 seatbelt cutter window busters for your car. You should probably hold your breath right before it's completely full and while you still have breathable air to maximize your time you can be underwater. If you are trapped in a fire in a building, stoop low. The breathable air will be near the floor. With this, never ever just rip open a door. If there's fire on the other side, guess where it's going to come? Feel the door handle with the back of your hand. The reason is if it's hot, you'll instinctively pull your hand away and any potential burn is on the back. If you grab the handle normally, the burn is on the inside of your hand, reducing your ability to grip things. As firefighters, we are taught to search rooms with the back of our hand. Primarily because of potential electric currents, if you grab an electric outlet and get electrified, your muscles will contract and you will not be able to release the outlet. If you touch the outlet with the back of your hand, you will automatically retract your hand. Edit. I remember as part of my introductory first aid lessons, we did some role-playing exercises with injured people and first aiders. One of the exercises, we as first aiders had to help someone who had been electrocuted and was still holding the outlet, so they were stuck. The exercise's focus point was that we had to shut off the electric outlet before reaching for the person, because else we would be electrocuted and maybe even stuck as well. Seems laughable, but it's actually been a real problem that first aiders has been electrocuted by trying to save someone else. When someone is having a heart attack or is found unconscious in a public space, direct people. Especially point out people. You call 911 and you find a defibrillator. If a crowd is going to just stand around and gawk, you need to remind them that this is a life at risk, not entertainment. The sooner you can begin CPR or shock the heart, the higher the chances are for the person to survive. Also, the human body is squishy. You will break a few ribs in the process of performing CPR. Edit. Thank you, kind Redditor, for my first silver. Also thank you everyone for adding to the conversation. My memory is not perfect since it's been a few years since my CPR training. Time to recertify, but this is bringing up a lot of good points I've forgotten. Asks the situation, is it gas, heart attack, weapon injury? Use a name rather than just you, send people in pairs. If you've been shivering cold for a while but you start to feel warm or hot to the point that you want to take off your coat, don't. It means you have hypothermia. For those that are interested, this is called paradoxical undressing. Apparently this occurs due to compensatory mechanisms shutting down. While you are still relatively alive, the body shunts blood away from the extremities and towards the core vital organs. When the body decompensates, this shunting ceases and the warm blood from the middle of your body is released to extremities and the surface of the skin. The rush of warm blood apparently will lead to a sensation of heat or warmth. Sometimes this sensation will be so strong that people will think an extremity is burning and they will later be found frozen with one boot or glove removed. Kangaroos can't jump backwards. You'll thank me one day. One day you'll be out with a friend and a kangaroo will attack and instinctually you'll yell, "Get behind it." It's not funny, but you've learned something. If someone is trying to kidnap you, fight like hell. Make as much noise as possible and scream "fire" instead of "help." Drop your entire body weight to the ground to make it harder to pick you up. Poop yourself. Squeeze their eyeballs out. Bite their ear off. Stab them with anything you have on you. Don't be kind at all. You never, ever want to go to the second location because you will not be coming back. Edit. If they do manage to take you and you are on your way to the second location, get as much of your DNA in the car as possible. Spit all over the place. Rip pieces of your hair out. Make yourself bleed. Anything. Try to feel the motions of the car and where it turns. You can usually tell if you're on a highway or back roads, and if you're familiar with the area, you might be able to tell relatively where you are. Leave a trail behind if you can. Take pieces of your clothes off or random items that you have with you and drop them out of the car at various points in the trip. Once they are getting you out of the car, drop a small item of clothing like a sock right out front of the house or wherever they are planning to take you. Make sure your captor does not see this. Edit number 2. Some more good advice from commenters. Scratch your captor up. Get as much of their DNA underneath of your fingernails as you can. Try to leave visible scratches on their face. Take a big, round, visible bite out of them. Make sure you leave your dental imprint. Hopefully a person who has several scratch and bite marks so close to the time that someone went missing in the area will raise some red flags, especially if it's bad enough that they need to go to the hospital. If they happen to leave the car and you can reach the steering wheel, jam anything you can into the ignition. Nail file, twig, pencil, etc. If you can reach the steering wheel at any time while they are driving, deliberately cause an accident, preferably with the impact on the captor's side if you can. If you can reach them but not the steering wheel, try to cover, scratch at their eyes to try to get them to crash. Also, a lot of commenters have raised questions about the effectiveness of yelling fire instead of help, which I have always been taught. After doing some Googling, I found that it is somewhat outdated advice, and while it still is effective in getting people's attention, yelling, "Help, look at me," or "Call 911" is just as effective. My mom always told me to poop myself. She said no one wants someone who poops themselves. Yes, I recently read about a parent that taught their kid to also yell descriptors and include, "Look at me." People will turn and look. Also, even if they hold a gun to you, then do everything you can to get out of the situation. Being moved to a different location is never good because that is where they have control. They don't have control in the initial location, which is why they want to move you. It's better to recover from a gunshot wound instead of whatever will happen once you've been taken. Go for soft spots like noses, groin, ears, eyes, stuff like that. It doesn't take much force to break a nose with the heel of your palm. Something my mom always told me from a self-defense classes she took is when you bite, keep going until your teeth meet. Be savage. This is your life. Edit. Something I just remembered from a self-defense class: if you are being driven to a second location and you can cause a car accident, do it. That will cause people to stop and help, call the police, and hopefully the chance for you to escape. Even if they threaten to kill you, it is worth the risk. If they are willing to kill you right there with people around, they will certainly be willing to kill you at a second location without witnesses. Also, never take a psychopath at their word. They want to control the situation and will say anything to do so. Shove your thumbs into their eyeballs. Hard. As in, try to push the eyes to the back of their own skull. Honestly, is better to die right there than to go to wherever they are planning on taking you. And it would stop all those horrible prank videos where they legit kidnap people. Street smarts. You're not talking me to no secondary location. If the car starts to slide, don't hit the brakes. Better yet, take your car every now and then to an empty parking lot and get some actual experience driving on ice, snow. And not just straight line driving. Make sure you get some practice braking, steering, accelerating, and so on. Do them all, both smooth and sudden. Combine them and so on. Even more so, when driving and you are alone on the road, slam your brakes every now and then to test them and remind yourself of your car's braking distance over various surfaces. In short, know your car intimately. Amen. Every time we get snow or ice here, Kentucky, where we panic if a single flake falls and buy all the French toast ingredients we need from now to doomsday, when I have to drive, I test each road I drive on like this, unless it's obviously clear or been graded, as long as there's nobody immediately behind me. If any room in the house has a strong scent of fish, check the outlets. Checking the outlets and plugging out whatever is plugged in there could save your life from an electrical fire. I don't understand, does an electrical issue smell like fish? This actually happened to me recently. Melting plastic can give off an odor very similar to fish, and I actually thought something died in one of our vents. After researching this smell, it was suggested that I go around the entire house feeling the wall outlets. Sure enough, one was hot to the touch, and after removing the unit I found where the wires had burned through their insulation and began to melt the plastic. This is also why a lot of cats eat plastic. Now that you mention it, my cat does feel warm to the touch. The rule of threes. You can survive 3 minutes of severe bleeding without breathable air or in icy water. You can survive 3 hours in extreme heat or cold. You can survive 3 days without drinkable water. You can survive 3 weeks without edible food. So don't off yourself on day 20 without food, you've got 1 more day of survival. Also, most waterborne illnesses take 3 to 5 days to incubate. Dehydration can kill you in an afternoon. I wouldn't hesitate to drink from a stream in a survival situation. Les Stroud has stated if the option is a potential waterborne illness or dehydration, drink that water. You aren't guaranteed to catch something, and if you do, it isn't guaranteed to be fatal. Dehydration, however, is. I freaking love Survivorman. It's infinitely more practical and informational than all the other survival shows. Oi, a waterfall. I better climb up it for no apparent reason. Survive, adapt, overcome. In a life or death situation, or when you are outnumbered, which is the same thing if you think about it. Punch the throat of the attacker, enemy, as hard as you can, instead of the face. Edit. Since this post had a lot of replies, I decided to clarify some things. 1. Why hit their throat? Because even a weak punch can do great damage. Also, it's located in a kind of valley between the chest and the chin, so even a misplaced punch can kind of slide to the right spot. As several people mentioned, with enough force this can be deadly, so use it as your last resource. For all that the throat can be protected, the chin can be put down, etc. Remember that not all confrontation happens when you are standing on foot. You can being put in a back of a car or a van when being kidnapped, or even being attacked on the ground. 2. Why not hit other places, eyes, nose, nuts, solar plexus, etc. The throat is the most efficient place, because you don't need strength to be effective. Also, people on drugs don't feel pain. You can rip their sacks off and they won't care. If you doubt, ask to a police officer. But everybody, even crackheads, need to breathe. Nobody works without air. I could discuss here how a nose is a small area for a non-trained person, that the neck is closer for short people, that if your hit in the nose isn't strong some people will not be affected, how the solar plexus can be protected with clothes and muscle, how a slap in the ear can be easily blocked, and so on. But I'm just making it simple. In moments of panic, people just remember fragments of information, so the smaller the information, easier to remember. Also, if you want to learn more, people contributed a lot with good advice in the comments, so take your time to read them. 3. Thanks for all the replies and upvotes. Thanks to all of you guys that contributed with good advices and tips in the comments. Thanks to all of you who understood the context of the main thread and the context of my comment. 4. Guys, learn martial arts, self-defense. It's good for your mind, it's good for your body and can be very helpful when you are in danger. It's not about punching and kicking, but about self-control, mastery over yourself, being calm in extreme situations, learning to read situations to know when to go away before the shit hits the fan, and so on. Those things are the things that save your life, not your 1,000 punches and kicks. P.S. For all the mine throat or their throat mocking me. I'm not a native speaker, so sorry for that one. I already fixed this in the comment. I laughed a lot with your replies. I saw the thing in my mind as a Johnny English thing and it was very funny. Edit 2. There is this comment from you, I have a sandwich, who added very important info. Sure, hitting the throat is a good idea, but don't just assume you will be able to do it just because you read this sentence. Fights are extremely dynamic situations and most likely you will stand there frozen and get KO'd or worse. Don't allow a situation to unravel because a part of you wants to test out this throat punch theory. Most people are born with decent instincts to tuck their head when they are getting attacked, so a throat punch is not the easiest thing to land. Also, by focusing on that throat you are losing sight of all the other things involved in the fight. I would consider it far more important to focus on tucking your chin, moving and circling, and throwing many punches consecutively, poking eyes, as well as grabbing onto hair, clothes and pulling and pushing hard to get people off balance. I've avoided more than one KO by instinctively grabbing someone's shirt and stiff-arming them away from me while tucking my head as they punched. Not mention the fact you will probably forget to breathe for 30 seconds and completely gas out. That sucks against multiple opponents. If you are worried about getting into a physical fight, take boxing, judo, wrestling, or Krav Maga classes for a few months to get some basics in. See what it feels like to have someone really pressure you. Reading one sentence on the internet will not prepare you at all for a fight, so do not stick around and challenge a tough guy because you have the secret throat punch idea in your back pocket. If he's thought about punching throats way more than you have. This is solid advice, it should be common sense, but it's always good to remember. Please upvote his reply. I don't know how to direct link it. This should go without saying, but if you're in the shower, it's absolutely necessary to check for lumps on your breasts, testicles. Cancer is no joke. Also, yes, men can get breast cancer. Edit. Thank you for the silver. But testicular cancer in women is very rare. Never use water to put out a grease fire, use baking soda or suffocate the flame with another pot, pan. I see videos all the time of people putting water on fires that start in their kitchen one with water because they're freaking out and are inexperienced in the kitchen. The fire will get 1,000 times worse if you throw water on it. Edit. Just to sum up some other options from below, the following things are also good for assisting in putting out grease fires. The lid for said pan that should be slid across the pot to create a seal for proper flame suffocation, a damp cloth or towel, salt. A fire extinguisher, specifically a Class K extinguisher according to our experts below. Thanks guys. Apparently use this method only if you want to do a lot of cleanup and possible repairs, but you shouldn't be afraid to use it if necessary. And of course, remember to turn off the stove. Flour is not a good substitute for baking soda either. Aerosolized flour is highly explosive. Check out some YouTube videos sometime. It's scary how flammable it is if it spreads out enough in the air. It's also a reason why silo fires are so dangerous. That's a lot of potential energy. If a product has the word oxy in it or is ammonia, do not let it come into contact with bleach. Fun fact. One time my senior year of college, the janitorial service for our dorm accidentally used the wrong cleaner on the toilet seats, something with ammonia, and people were getting rashes from it. So the admin sent out an email to everyone recommending that we wipe down the toilet seats with Clorox wipes before using them, so people did, and those bathrooms had to be shut down. None of those admins were chem majors, I assume. Hey, some guy told me that you shouldn't touch bleach. Something having to do with having oxy in your name, apparently. The self-Heimlich. If you like eating alone, then people won't help you if you are choking. Place a fist on the top of a chair, and lean onto the fist, then drive your fist towards yourself by thrusting upwards. So I read this as punch yourself or pretend to wank someone off in your chest. If you are at the beach and sea suddenly withdraws, run away from the beach as soon as possible. A tsunami is coming. If you can see the wave, you're too late. Those aren't mountains. Hans Zimmer plays in the background. If you've been lost in the wilderness for days, upon your rescue do not try and down all the food and water in sight. The shock to your system can be fatal. Supposedly you should eat half your daily caloric requirement in milk for a few days before going to normal food if you can't get medical care. Milk has phosphorus, calcium, potassium, magnesium, protein, etc., which all become deficient when starving. So if I'm lactose intolerant, find those nutrients in another light food, liquid? Not just accept your death. Nature has decided you're not fit to survive. Refeeding syndrome for those curious. Wear a freaking helmet. Edit. Thank you kind stranger, for my first ever silver. Also, RIP inbox, and I'm sorry there is no way I can respond to all of your comments. But yes, do wear a freaking helmet so you don't catch the AIDS, and also wear a regular helmet. Even if your coworkers look at you funny. It will literally save your life. No matter where you are. My condolences to all those families who have had to bury someone. It's not something I would wish on my worst enemy. If you're worried about it ruining your hair, not having a head will also ruin your hair. It could also affect your hearing. I'm not bald, I'm just a little hard of hearing. I once fell on some black ice when taking a corner at the bottom of a pretty big hill and broke my helmet in half. I could barely get out of bed the next morning, but at least my skull was intact. If you're stranded with your car in a remote area, burn a tire to draw attention. Take tire out of car first? Use the spare. Kill the spare. If untrained, choose a spear and not a sword or axe. Spears have numerous advantages, and are intuitive to the point where a novice actually has a decent chance against a middling swordsman. Just remember what your high school cheerleaders taught you. Be aggressive, be aggressive. A good offense is the best approach with a spear. This is cool, but I'm wondering what kind of situation you would be in where you have access to a variety of medieval weapons. I could see making a spear in a stranded, survival situation. But call me PETA if I ever actually have to choose a spear to fight a swordsman. If you can recognize the Big Dipper, then you can find the North Star. One way to remember is to imagine the Big Dipper as a cooking pot. The North Star sort of pours out from the tip. The North Star is slightly fainter than any of the stars in the Big Dipper. This tip actually has saved someone I know who was lost in a desert. He had been driving through the dirt for hours trying to guess his way to a road. Once he found the North Star, he kept it over his right shoulder because the nearest highway was to the west. That got him back onto pavement. Edit. South of the equator there's a slightly more complicated set of instructions. I was driving home with my dad about a month ago and we encountered a few deer. My dad said to me, "Quizzica, if a deer is running across the road, it's better to just hit it than to swerve and end up in the ditch. But if there's a moose that's in the road, swerve and go into the ditch." Hitting a moose is like hitting a brick wall. I don't think he's ever hit a moose in his life and I've never seen a moose in the wild, but it's still advice that could help me later. It's worth noting that if you hit a deer, your insurance has some evidence there was a deer, and you will likely not be found at fault. If you run into a ditch, there is no evidence of cause, and your insurance will probably skyrocket. If you hit a moose, you're gonna die, so just eat the insurance hike. Your life is worth it. Not only are moose massive, they are built at a height where you'll take out their legs, and all 1,500 pounds of them will come right to your windshield. Till moose are massive and weigh 1,000 plus pounds. Moose are insane. I'm more afraid of a moose than a bear in the wild. Fast. Is someone having a stroke? F. Face drooping? A. Arms, can they hold them out straight? S. Speech slurring? T. Time last seen normal. Edit. Also, several people below have added in be fast, the B representing balance and the E for eyes, double vision, blindness in one eye. Also, age does not matter. Is it rare for young people to get one? Yes. I was 29 when I had a stroke. One of the first signs of a heart attack that is not often talked about is a serious upset stomach. For us with anxiety, it's an everyday affair. My uncle went to hospital twice with anxiety attacks that presented very like heart attacks. If you're lost in the wilderness, follow a river downstream to find civilization. Don't do this in Africa or arid places in general. Rivers tend to dry up and stagnate downstream, and you should go upstream to where there is more water and civilization. If you get lost in Africa, you're just fracked, river or no river. To save someone else's life. 3 songs that have the right rhythm for CPR are Nelly the Elephant, Stayin' Alive, and Another One Bites the Dust. Sing one of these and press down on each beat. Your dominant hand should be on top of your non-dominant, and they should be right in the center of the chest, between the nipples. Your shoulders and elbows should be locked, and you should be using your whole upper body weight. Good luck, my dudes, I hope you never have to use it. If you feel a rib crack, don't stop. Broken ribs heal, stopped hearts do not fix themselves. The ribs have a good chance of cracking. Ignore it as best as you can. Chest compressions are the key to survival. Just keep going, even if you are going for 10 minutes. 15 minutes. Don't stop till police, EMT shows up and then let them take over for you. You can save a life if you just keep pumping. Granted, the person may still die, but you literally have to just keep compressions up until the proper help arrives. Side note, song of choice is Stayin' Alive. CPR performed out of hospital. Bystander CPR overall. 46.1%, survivor rate asterisk overall. 12%, CPR performed in hospital. Survival rate adult asterisk, 24.8%. The asterisk denotes survival till time of discharge because, at the end of the day, there is a 100% mortality rate for everyone, so specifically speaking, the person being performed CPR on has a really decent chance versus 0% chance if none is performed. Edit. One more note on the bystander CPR score. That doesn't reflect if CPR was begun immediately and by someone doing it correctly. It just reflects attempted CPR. If you factor in someone knowing CPR plus doing it right being the only thing, I am sure it would be higher than 12%. Take 1 sec to shake off the feeling of just breaking a bone and keep going. As a former paramedic, I will never forget my first broken rib experience. Gives me the shivers. You were in the parking lot earlier, that's how I know you. We only have minutes to harvest. There's no wallet, I already checked. Another one bites the dust seems problematic in this situation. And if the person you're doing CPR is in bed, pull them down on the floor. Otherwise, too much of your pressure goes into the mattress instead of their heart, making your CPR much less effective. If you're in an enclosed space like a room and smell roasted almonds, but no one is roasting almonds, you need to get out. That's what cyanide smells like. But what if someone is toasting almonds? Ask them if you can have some. If you are at the beach on vacation and one day ask yourself where all the water is gone, far beyond normal tide, run. This has actually saved lives in the catastrophic Christmas tsunami of 2004 because someone has paid attention in school. Oh, I've heard that story. Wasn't it a Dutch girl who realized a tsunami was on its way? British girl actually. Her parents didn't even believe her that there was a tsunami coming, but there was a Japanese man who recognized the word tsunami, the Japanese word for big wave, and convinced her parents there was one coming, and the family managed to save many people. A year later she was awarded on the same beach she saved people from. Tilly Smith. This is much more believable to me. I've heard about this girl warning her parents and saving the people. I remember learning about the warning signs of a tsunami when I was little, but there is no way my parents would have believed me. If you get stabbed, don't remove the item you were stabbed with. It's the only thing holding the blood inside of you, and removing it could result in a large amount of blood loss. Edit. Wow, my first silver, thank you. If I get stabbed and the stabber still has the knife, should I take it from him and reinsert it into the same wound? You don't have to pay money on any type of phone to call 911, so don't bother fouling for change if it's a payphone. By law in the US, all phones can call 911 without any changes. Even if you're in an office that makes you hit 91 or something to call out, 911 will get you to an operator. If it does not, that's illegal. All cell phones can call 911 too, even without a SIM card or plan, and all phones have an emergency call option where you don't need to unlock the phone to call. Once in a while I'll accidentally hit the one twice and have to explain to the operator that there's no emergency, I'm just an idiot. This is why I hate internal phone systems that use 9 for external calls, like just use 7 and save us all the hassle. Punch, gouge the shark in the eyes or gills, not the nose like everyone thinks. I would assume gouging the eyes out of most things would stop them from attacking you. Always keep a standard or survival candle in your vehicle in colder climates. The heat from one candle is enough to keep you from freezing to death for as long as it's lit. Some survival candles last as long as 36 hours. Edit. Whoop, my first 1000 plus comment. Thanks all. Edit 2. Thanks for my first and second silver, kind strangers. Follow up to this. A single crayon can burn for about 30 minutes. Keep a box of crayons and you have a bad set of emergency candles. Have you seen the price of crayons? A candle is cheaper. Keep a candle and something to light it with. If someone in a car tries to jump you, kidnap you, don't even try to fight. Run as fast as you can in different directions that the car won't be able to follow easily. Saw a video on OneSub a couple weeks ago of a guy running back and forth after someone in a car tried to jump him. I saw that one too. Good advice. To save your kids from being abducted, teach them to yell, "Help, I don't know this motherfraker," as loud as possible to get everyone attention. A friend from high school was telling us one day that when he was 4 his parents taught to scream, "Frack off you pervert," if a stranger offered him candy, toys, a puppy, etc. He screamed this at the top of his lungs when he met one of his uncles for the first time. Holy moly, this is the best thing I've read all day. Not all heart problems come with clear warning signs. There is not always an alarming chest clutch followed by a fall to the floor like you see in movies. Some heart symptoms don't even happen in your chest, and it's not always easy to tell what's going on. Nausea, indigestion, heartburn, stomach pain, shortness of breath, throat or jaw pain can also be signs of a heart attack. I know this is true, but this is also the worst thing in the world to know. Now anytime I have jaw pain from chewing gum, heartburn from food, shortness of breath from asthma, or mild chest pain, I occasionally pull muscles at work. I think, yeah, this totally normal thing sucks. Unless it's a heart attack. Hello anxiety, my old friend, you've come to scare me once again. If a man is posing to fight by shouting and making sharp hand gestures, he's most likely just trying to scare you away. If a man is calmly walking towards you with no emotion in his face, run like a wind. Grew up in a rough neighborhood. Can say this is fairly accurate. Also, real G's are silent like lasagna. Clearly you've never heard me eating a lasagna. I've heard that when a person starts repeating the same words, phrases over and over, they're moments from attacking you. It's a sign their brain has flipped a switch and they're no longer thinking rationally. It's the adrenaline, but yeah, this is a solid sign. If they are the shouting in your face type and stop shouting and look down, they are about to throw a punch. Big warning sign is silence and looking down. Either get the first one in or brace yourself. When you see a bear, don't run. I saw a comment not too long ago that has a good way of remembering this, depending on what type of bear it is. Black, fight back. Brown, get down. White, good night. Edit. This does not mean pretend you're asleep or play dead. If you see a polar bear, you're done. Edit 2. Another commenter mentioned that if you see a polar bear, take off an article of clothing and throw it in the opposite direction. The bear will stop to sniff, inspect it. This will give you some, not a lot, but some time to escape. I'm not sure how to make this rhyme, but white, throw your clothes. I saw a black bear once while doing some field geology. It saw us too. It was maybe 25 meters away. I took my hammer and started hitting some rocks as hard as I could. It took off away from us at a rather impressive speed. We never saw it again. The whole ordeal lasted like 5 seconds. The time we had moose, mom plus 2 babies, wander through our camp was a far more frightening experience. Edit. If you do ever encounter a moose, be still, hopefully it doesn't deem you a threat. If it does and charges or begins acting aggressive, run. Moose are prey, huge, but still prey. They don't want to eat you. They're afraid of you. Run, get behind a tree, make yourself scarce. If a polar bear attacks, shoot it many times and or spray it with the gun or bear spray that you sure better have if you're in polar bear country. If you don't, punch it in the nose. It'll probably eat you anyway, but nothing to lose at that point. If your garage door needs maintenance, leave it to the pros. Garage door springs can kill you if you remove them in the wrong way. Had one of the spring tethers rust away and snap, made the loudest noise that shook the whole house. Springs are dangerous, don't meddle with them. If you're ever lost in Central Park, the lamp posts can help you find the right direction to go in. There are 4 numbers on each post. The first 2 tell you the nearest street to you, while the second 2 tell you whether you're on the east or west side of the park. Central Park is massive and not a great place to be lost in at night. These days you can almost always see the giant toothpick apartment buildings spring up on Central Park South, so orienting to Midtown is no problem. Tall buildings equals Midtown, short equals Harlem. Guns are always loaded. My friend was showing me his new handgun. He had the lock that goes through the barrel and out the side, and he said, even with this lock, it is always loaded, don't point it at anything you don't want to kill. I carry a handgun for work and have to load and chamber a round every morning. I am always thinking about where I am pointing my gun while doing this, even to the extent of what's on the other side of this wall since I live in an apartment. Firearms should always be handled with respect for what they are capable of and caution for what may accidentally happen if mishandled. I try to keep this in mind every day that I pick it up. This needs to be emphasized because people are dumb. Guns are always loaded. You've unloaded the gun, cleared the chamber, put a trigger lock on, and removed the firing pin. The gun is loaded. Red next to yellow will kill a fellow, red next to black won't hurt Jack. This is about snake colors, by the way. I was hoping it was a way to identify hostile countries by their flags. Edit. If you were gonna mention Germany, like 40 people beat you to it. Read this on here long ago and luckily haven't needed it yet, but if your poop or vomit looks like coffee grounds, go to the hospital immediately. It could mean you're bleeding internally. Edit. Vomit, not poop. Edit 2. Looks like poop is also a possibility. To be safe, if you are emitting coffee grounds from any orifice and you are not a coffee machine, get to the ER. Edit 3. There's a lot more coffee machines on Reddit than I thought. I mean, I knew there'd be some, but not this many. Edit 4. Many people have mentioned black tar like poop is also possible bleeding. Get that thing checked out. If you throw up and there looks like there are coffee grounds in your vomit, go to your closest ED for a possible upper GI bleed. What if I threw up because I ate a pound of coffee grounds? Then please seek out the next psychiatrist. If someone grabs you from behind, quickly spin around and throw your elbow, forearm to their face as hard as you can. Practice this. You can practice with a partner without smashing their face, of course, and take a few turns on a heavy bag as well. It is a very easy move and very intuitive. Edit. We are talking about someone forcefully grabbing you from behind with an arm lock and usually around the neck as if to hold you in a chokehold to subdue, to either rob or, for example, in cases where women have been assaulted or abducted. We are not talking about your pals grab-assing in your garage, game room, or if someone taps you on the shoulder. As with everything, context is key. Sorry Nan, you really shouldn't sneak up on me like that. If you come across a mountain lion, never turn your back towards them. They want stalk or attack if they see your eyes, face. Was watching a show where they had to stay in the wilderness alone. The guy wore a beanie that had fake eyes in the back to keep the mountain lions away. Is this a legit strat? If so, that's honestly next level right there. Yes, some tribes in Africa do this with masks. They wear them backwards to keep away predators. People in one region of India did it for a while because of tigers, but the tigers learned. Don't forget that one tiger that stalked and hunted some dude after the man shot him ended up waiting several hours, and when dude showed up to his cabin, attacked him and carried him off into the woods and ate him. Edit for clarity. India too for the tigers. And frankly, tigers do it too. Those white spots are fake eyes. That it? I'm investing in googly eyes for future hikes. They'll think I'm looking all over the place. This is kind of a good rule of thumb for most predators in the wild. Remember kids, humans were built for endurance, not speed. If you stumble upon a big cat or bear in the wilderness, do not attempt to run away, they will catch you. Slowly back away from the animal while remaining to face the animal's direction and standing up tall. If they charge at you, despite all instincts yelling for you to run, your best chance is to stand your ground and make as much noise as possible. Making yourself appear dangerous to the animal, not weak, is the key. Do not do this with gorillas, they see it as a challenge and you will not win that battle. You actually do the opposite with a gorilla because the gorilla isn't trying to eat you, he thinks you're challenging his authority. You should crouch down in a ball and be as small and quiet as possible and never fight back, even if you're attacked. If he picks you up, start grooming his fur while smacking your lips together loudly. This could distract him and cause him to see you in a more non-threatening way. What if he starts to kiss me? What if I like it? This is my life now. If you're ever buried in an avalanche, the easiest way to find out which way you're facing, up or down, is by spitting. That's if you can create enough space to move. Was snowboarding backcountry with a bunch of friends, and one of them ended up getting caught in a slough that covered him ridiculously fast. Took us a solid 10 to 15 minutes to find and dig him out. His goggles were what saved him. As they fell down his face, they stopped by his mouth and gave him a small pocket of air to breathe in. If you're anywhere prone to avalanches, whether you're snowboarding, skiing, hiking, etc., take a beacon. They're relatively cheap and really good at saving your life. If you ever get stuck in a rip current, don't panic and try to swim directly back to the shore. Instead, swim parallel to the shore until you are out of the current. Edit. Wow, this comment blew up. Thanks for the gold. By the way, this is what I meant by this comment. Waves crashing at the beach is normal. One patch of calm-looking water with waves breaking on either side is not. That's where the riptide is. As someone who's nowhere near a beach, thank you. I keep reading what to do when caught in one, but didn't know how to tell where one is. I had no idea what rip currents were until I got stuck in one when I was 19, having gone to beach numerous times before. I went to save my 14-year-old cousin who couldn't get out of these currents, then he and I just got stuck. No joke, this local 9-year-old kid paddles over on a surfboard and got us out in a minute. I'll never forget that day. If you are swimming around shore and a big wave comes in, swim down deep as you can and lay on the bottom before it gets to you. Do not try to jump over it or charge into it. But how am I supposed to show the waves who's boss? Edit. Thanks for the silver, kind stranger. Dry red kidney beans need to be boiled and drained before you cook them or they're poison. Edit. This was just a passing thought comment based on a time I gave myself food poisoning. This is now the biggest thing I've ever done online. If you're in a pool and there's a metallic taste in your mouth, get out of said pool. There's an electrical short somewhere in the water. That's why there are no shorts allowed in my pool. Edit. Wow, my first ever Reddit silver. Thank you, kind internet strangers. There's always lots of wires inside the pool, so I find this one very useful. Typically, if your pool has lights in it, that's the most common short in a pool. If you're being chased by an alligator, run in zigzags. Step 1. Get one to chase you. Mythbusters found that this was the hardest part. If you are ever being chased by a polar bear, take off an article of clothing and leave it on the ground as you run away. Polar bears have really bad attention deficit disorder, and they will thoroughly inspect your dropped clothing before chasing you again. In these instances, your decision is if you want to be mauled to death or to die of hypothermia. Would they be more interested in a Gucci jacket or a North Face? Just drop your Vans instead. The true reason behind this is that when the polar bear eats you, if you are naked, you won't upset its tummy as much. Is actually a polar bear. First thing in the morning, birds will fly low and straight to a water source. On the return flight, they will stay high and stop frequently to rest. So you can either follow them or go in the opposite direction depending on how they are flying in order to find potable water. If someone has ingested antifreeze, windshield wiper fluid, then they can drink alcohol. Vodka is best, but anything will work to stop it from shredding their kidneys until they get to a hospital. You can also drink vodka even if you haven't ingested antifreeze, and it will still protect you from antifreeze. We treat dogs with antifreeze toxicity with a vodka drip. Am emergency vet nurse. A drunk dog is pretty comical, but you know when you poop the morning after a big night and it has that alcohol poop smell to it? Just imagine that, but dog poop. Literally gagged. Thanks for reminding, I was on the internet. Antifreeze is metabolized very similarly to alcohol, but its byproducts are far worse. Alcohol binds more strongly to the enzymes involved in digestion, which can buy you time to get to a hospital. If you are overdosing on illegal substances, you won't get in trouble with the police if you call 911 for help. I worked for a short time in a bowling alley as a mechanic in the back. On these models, there is a big arm on each machine that rotates, dropping the pin setter down and back up. The force is so strong that my boss showed me by putting a pin in its way. The arm smashed right through the pin and tore it in half, splintering everywhere. It didn't slow down. Do not run and slide into the pins as a joke and get smashed to death. Was never thinking of doing that, but there's a deal at my local bowling alley: buy a beer and get a free game of bowling on Mondays. Me and my friends get tanked, so if anyone jokingly goes to do this, I can save the day. Avoid the pins. Please sir, do reconsider the decision to slide into the pins, as the pin setter could crush thy legs. I will bet you one free beer and a game that when you do that your legs will get crushed. I always wondered, where does a bowling alley store the extra pins? Are there just big boxes full of pins in the back? How often do you get new pins delivered? How much does a bowling pin cost? Do aspiring jugglers ever come in and ask to buy your pins? Edit. Okay, you can stop linking the Simpsons video. We had a few extra pins, but barely any. They are very solid wood and don't need a lot of replacing. At least as much as I'd expect. Each machine probably cycled about 20 pins, and we probably had one spare in a box in the back for each machine. They'll chip from time to time like anything wooden. No idea about cost and delivery, etc. You are loved, and it will get better. Edit. Thanks for my first gold. I'm just glad that it resonated with people, because that fact truly did save my life. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.